It's a Guy Jeans podcast.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the podcast. This is Guy Jeans, your host. I'm going to give you guys a little scenario. You know, when I was a kid, I did all kinds of different jobs. I mowed lawns, I dug ditches, did gardening, did all kinds of stuff. But I always had a ghetto blaster nearby playing music. Usually my station was tuned to a Santa Barbara station called KTYD or KMET in Los Angeles. Or KLOS in Los Angeles, and they had a huge area that they covered from Los Angeles, and they always have a band on there called Foghat, and so I grew up listening to this band, so it's an honor to have them on my podcast and talk about their music and whatnot. So I'd be listening to them while I was mowing lawns, digging ditches, whatever it was. I was listening to the songs like Slow Ride, Fool for the City, I Just Want to Make Love to You, Third Time Lucky, Driving Wheel, Stone Blue, Honey Hush, Home in My Land, Road Fever, Terraplane Blues. All these songs have been played on the radio. These guys have been around for a long time, since 1977. The band just turned 52 years old, man. It's crazy. So in November of this year, they're going to release a new album called Sonic Mojo. And they're still out on the road, traveling across the land and bringing their infectious boogie to packed houses full of adoring fans nearly every night. And a Foghat concert is every bit as much fun and intense in 2023 as it was in 1977 when their classic multi-platinum album, man, that's crazy. Foghat Live broke them around the world. So this album, Foghat Live, got them notoriety all around the world. Looking back, it's only fitting that it was a live album that made Foghat a household name. And the band, of course, wouldn't have it any other way. So I've got the lead singer, his name's Scott Holt. And Scott is recently the new lead singer for Foghat. He joined in 2022. But Scott has an interesting music history and music career in that he used to play with Buddy Guy and played with him for 10 years. He's played with all kinds of different musicians, and I get to talk to him about his musical career and what he's been doing all these years. He's from Tennessee, and he's made homes in Texas and Mississippi, and he's been playing for a long time. And he's recorded and performed with B.B. King, Albert Collins, Junior Wells, John Lee Hooker, Otis Rush, Willie Dixon, Coco Taylor, Eric Clapton, Carlos Santana, and it goes on and on. Steve Miller, and all kinds of different people. And his story is amazing, and I'm looking forward for you guys to hear our really great conversation, not only about Foghat, but also about Scott Holt. So check it out, you guys. This is a good one. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Guy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm stoked that you were, as we were talking to you earlier, I was stoked you were listening to my band, man. That was cool.
Yeah, man, you guys sound great.
Thanks, man. Have you played with many horns?
I've done some stuff. When I was with Buddy, we had a horn section for a while, and then I've done some work with some horn players in Nashville. So yeah, I've worked with them a few times. Yeah.
It's fun, huh?
Yeah, it is fun. It gives it a different texture, and it's fun, and it's different from what I normally do. So that's cool.
I have so many questions for you, man, and of course about Foghat and stuff, but also your history. Reading about you and the amount of people that you've played with. Buddy Guy. I wanted to ask you real quick about Joe Louis Walker, man. Did you tour with him or just play on tracks, or what did you do with him?
I didn't tour with Joe, but we've known each other forever. I've crossed paths with Joe a million times. We played together on stage.
I bet, yeah.
A bunch, and Joe's he's a fantastic guitar player and just a really good guy, and I'm happy to call him my friend. So,
dude, I got to see him open up for Huey Lewis. He was doing a tour with Huey, and
Right.
I saw him play at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles,
Nice.
and got to meet him and went backstage and all this kind of stuff. It was kind of cool just to see it from that angle, looking out at the crowd was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's a monster player,
Yeah.
and what a history he's got. I mean, he lived with Mike Bloomfield, and I mean, he goes back, a ways with that stuff.
So tell me your history with Buddy Guy. I mean, sounds like such a cool story. You being a young kid and then going and playing with him, man. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. I met Buddy back in like 1985 or six, I think. I joined his band in '89, and I was with him until 2000. And I had just started playing guitar about a year before I joined the band, and was kind of
That's crazy, right?
trying to get it together. Yeah, I mean, he was real good to me. He I didn't know anything, and he let me learn on the job, and just let me make mistakes and figure out how to correct them, and just I learned everything from him. So.
Having mentors like that, man. I mean, what a blessing, huh?
He was just such a great, graceful person. I mean, he like I said, he let me make mistakes, and he let me figure it out. And he kind of led through example. He never really sat me down and said, you should do X, Y, and Z. He just knew I was watching him, and of course, I mean, backstage or whatever before a show, I would ask him questions. How did you do this, or how do you play this part right here? Or, when you were doing this, and he always answered me. He was never like, "Hey, leave me alone. I'm trying to get ready for the show," or anything like that. He was always right there. Just whatever I asked him, he would tell me. He's still to this day. If I call him right now and say, "That John Lee Hooker riff that you play, what key do you do that in?" He'll tell me.
Really?
So that's a good friend I have.
And he's still going, huh?
Still going, man. 87
So cool.
years old, and
Wow.
touring harder than I think he's toured in a long time.
Uh-huh. Have you toured with him, and what was that like?
It was, well, like I said, that was my first job. I'd never been I'd never been in a band before.
That's
never been on the
crazy,
road.
man.
I know. And I got to see the whole arc with him when I joined the band. It was before the record deal, so he was still in a van, and we were staying in motels and playing clubs, but they were packed. I mean, every night was a sellout.
Yeah.
And, but we were playing 500-600 seat clubs in the States. And then when we would go overseas, it was theaters and bigger audiences and stuff like that. So, and then once he got the record deal, and then it changed from a van to a tour bus. And then we started staying in
nice places
up, and
yeah.
you got to experience the whole thing. So it was a cool trip touring with him.
Did you find that the audiences in overseas were bigger back then and more? You guys were more appreciated over there.
Absolutely, 100%, man. They were more respectful, and music seems to be, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but overseas audiences seem to respect music more and care for it more. And I think it's because I think American audiences are just, we have it in our backyard, so we take it for granted. It's not like, you can go see a great blues artist tonight somewhere.
Sure.
You can go see a great rock band in some club somewhere tonight. And we have that all the time. And a lot of times overseas, I don't think they get it on that regular kind of basis. And I think they appreciate it more.
I've heard that multiple times, man, in some of my interviews with other artists that have played overseas and in Europe, and they're just like, oh my God, Even some of my buddies that are in punk bands, they're going over there and they're just killing it, playing old 80s punk, and still having a blast.
I mean, it's a different element, but I mean it, and not that I don't appreciate American audiences, because they have, they're their own thing.
Yeah.
But it's just it's when you go to Europe or you go overseas anywhere, I played in South America. I played all over the world with Buddy, so we went to every country, and hands down, everywhere outside the U.S. was bigger audiences, crazier, more respectful of the music, and you go to a place like Japan and you think you're in the Beatles, you know.
Right.
So, you know, they got to get you from A to B, and it's like a whole different deal.
So you started playing with him when you were 19, right? Is that about
yeah.
that? I mean, that is. I mean, he must have seen something in you, right? Something.
I don't know. You know, we just got along really well. My relationship with Buddy kind of reminds me of my relationship with Roger, in that we just had some things in common.
Yeah.
And it was more, you know, when I got with Buddy, I didn't fully understand who he was in the musical firmament. You know, I didn't understand what a key role he was as a guitar player and as a musician and an entertainer. I just knew he was a great guitar player, and it wasn't until, you know, over the period of time that I was with him that I started to understand people like Eric Clapton looked up to him.
Yeah.
You know, Jimi Hendrix came to Buddy Guy's shows. You know, Carlos Santana would come to sit in with Buddy Guy. And those things kind of, you know, if I had known all that when I got with him, I probably would have just frozen. All right, man. So yeah, so just playing with Buddy and having all those guys come and pay homage to him, you know, was enlightening for me to understand, you know, where he was in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, pretty incredible, man. Like I was saying, you know, being that young, he must have seen something in you, and you know, end up playing. You know, what a calling, man. I mean, you know, from going from that, and then, you know, your career kind of blossomed from there, and you got to learn about being on the road and touring. Did you ever write songs with him? And
I never wrote with Buddy. I've written some songs that he's actually recorded, which I was real proud of.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, when I was with Buddy, you know, he would always say things like, well, you know, when you get your own band, or when you know, because there was always that understanding that, you know, I wasn't just going to be his guitar player for the rest of my career. Yeah. I didn't know what I was going to do. And you know, when I finally left him in 2000, I'd put out my second record, and the record label wanted me to tour and support the record. And we were trying to figure out a way to do it and stay with Buddy, and it just wasn't happening. So that's why I ended up leaving. And then, you know, I ended up doing 7 records on my own, and I got to understand that part of the business where you're the guy in charge, and you're the guy that has to get the band from A to B, and you know, it's your van and your insurance, and you know, it becomes a different animal when it's all hanging on you. So
what was it like that for you, like going from, you know, playing, you know, these sold out shows to, like, was it almost like starting over again?
It was exactly like starting over. You go from playing sold out shows and somebody hands you your guitar, and all of a sudden, you know, you got to find your own guitar, and there's 30 people there, and you know, the club owner's trying to pay you with a frozen pizza and a case of beer, and you're like, no, man, I got to have the $200 to get to the next town, you know?
Yeah.
So it's you know, and you need those things. I mean, as a musician, you know, you have to have those things. If you don't ever get that, you don't appreciate any of it, you know, and it's given me a different, you know, getting the gig with Foghat, I have a different perspective than I would have if I'd have gone straight from Buddy to Foghat. I had to have those lean years and the harder years, because now, you know, I appreciate every second that I'm on stage, every second that I'm on the road. You know, I'm the most grateful musician in the world, I guarantee.
Yeah. Gosh, you know, a lot of people have no idea, you know, how hard musicians work and the traveling, you know, and it's unbelievable. I got a friend, he was on the podcast as well, and his name's Kyle Smith, and this guy is working his butt off, man. He's played at every state and been in a van traveling, getting sick, just
Yeah, I mean, you
yeah,
got to do it, and
yeah,
that's the thing, man. You don't have sick days. You don't have any of that stuff. The audience doesn't care if you've got a fever.
yeah, exactly.
They don't care that you didn't get lunch this afternoon. They don't care that you're needing some sleep. They bought their ticket and they want to be entertained, and that's your gig. So,
So how
you
do
know,
you go about like writing your songs and stuff? I mean,
man,
tell me about the process that you do that.
it's kind of like, finding a four-leaf clover or seeing a rainbow. You can't plan it. You can't hunt
Right?
for it.
Yeah.
It comes to you, and they come when you're not expecting it. They come
Uh-huh.
when you're, like if I'm sitting there with my guitar playing around and I stumble on some chord change that sounds interesting, or it inspires me to write a lyric, and all of a sudden, you're in the middle of writing a song.
Yeah.
Um, and then, with Foghat, we've written a ton of songs already, and a lot of those just come, somebody will say something that sparks an idea, and there you go, and you're off and running. So, I've never had a formula for songwriting. It's just always kind of been a
Do,
happy accident.
do you find that some of your best songs come really fast?
Yeah, the best ones for me are the quickest and the easiest. The ones that you have to labor over and wrestle with, they never quite, they never quite come together, or if they do, they never sound right.
Yeah, isn't
But
that interesting?
I think it's just, when you open yourself up to the frequency, and
Yeah.
you just accept it as it comes, it's going to be easier. Anything in life that you have to force, you
Yeah.
know, that should tell you something right there. If you're having to force it, that it's
Yeah.
not meant to be, or it's not for you.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of like almost like a gift that you're getting?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Is it,
think music is one of the most amazing gifts that we've been given. And that's why it's always been a big part of my life. It's always been a significant part of my life. But the older I get and the longer I live, the more I realize the power of it. We were talking earlier about being overseas. I've seen music transcend every boundary that you can imagine, including language boundaries. You go
yeah.
to Japan and they sing the lyrics back to you,
Yeah.
and they don't even sometimes don't even speak English, but they get the words right.
Yeah,
you know
yeah, exactly. I've seen that so many times just on
it's
videos.
incredible.
Yeah, and they don't speak English, but they're singing all the English lyrics.
Yeah, and I've seen these studies that they do with people with dementia or Alzheimer's, and one of the last things that they lose is their ability to play an instrument or sing lyrics. That stays with them,
Yeah,
when all the other stuff's gone. Music is just it's an amazing, powerful force, and we're lucky to have it. That's for sure.
my grandma had dementia, man, and she was in the hospital. And I would go. They had a piano in there in the room that she would hang out in,
Hmm.
and I would play the piano for her, and she would go from like not doing anything to like all of a sudden like expressing like facial gestures and stuff. It was amazing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable the power of music, huh?
I'm telling you, man, it's something.
Dude, you're have you done anything else or have you always played music?
I've always played music.
Yeah.
I'm not really equipped to do much.
That's your gift, man. That's your
Yeah,
absolute calling for sure.
yeah. I don't know how to do anything else. I don't think.
What's your favorite song that you've ever written?
That I've written. I wrote a song called Civil War. I kind of like that one. That one
Uh-huh.
seems to
Is
get
that
a good response from people.
is that new?
No, it's
Uh-huh.
I've had it for a few years.
Yeah.
It came out on a record I did called Chip Front Tooth, and it became
Awesome.
kind of a favorite for the live thing.
Uh-huh.
And so that one, and then I co-wrote one with Tom Hambridge and a guy named Richard Fleming that Buddy recorded called One Day Away, and I'm real proud of that one because Buddy cut it, so that was a kick for me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
Oh,
he did it on I think he did it on his album Rhythm and Blues.
wow. So what's the like the biggest crowd that you've played at with Buddy, or just ever?
Well, we did some rock festivals in Europe that had pretty huge crowds, and we opened some shows for the Stones, and when you open for the Stones, that's a big audience.
Oh
So
my,
we
that's
did 2 shows in Vegas at the MGM Grand, and we did 2 shows at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, and they were they were big shows. So
what's
that was
what's that like for you, man? Like,
it was crazy.
is
It was
it?
all crazy though. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I mean, opening for the Stones, you're on this massive stage,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they love Buddy, so there's
yeah.
no restrictions on us, and this was the Voodoo Lounge tour, so they had an entire nightclub backstage for for
Today,
for
awesome.
for the band and for the hangers on. So you'd be back there, and Keith Richards and Ron Wood are playing snooker in this bar that's got a jukebox and waitresses and a bartender, and
Oh
you're just
my
looking at
God,
all this stuff and going, well, this is insane.
that's crazy.
It was wild.
Do you remember like walking up on stage the first time, like in front of like that big of an audience? What was that
Oh
feeling
yeah,
like? What's that
yeah.
like? Is that hard
It's
to?
just it's so overwhelming that you can't even get scared. You don't even get stage fright because it's too big. You can't even take it all in. You just play your gig, and I mean
Wow.
that the biggest things that we did. I mean, and with Buddy, I was on the Tonight Show with Carson, and on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Yeah.
We did Austin City Limits a couple of times. Everything that we did, it was so big and coming at you so fast that you just like, okay, yeah, we got to do Austin City Limits, and then we're headed to wherever.
Yeah.
And you never really could take the time to get nervous about it.
Uh huh. And how was Buddy? Was he pretty good?
Oh, he was Buddy.
He's the
Buddy
man.
is stone cold. Yeah, he never gets nervous about anything. I don't think. When you're Buddy guy, you've done it all. You've seen it all. Nothing's going to shake you. I don't think.
Well, being a player too, right? Like, he's kind of like what most people are focused on, and so
Yeah.
you're kind of backing him. So it's like really not like the total pressure, but you got to play your notes right and everything. But
Yeah, I
right?
mean, like you said, the heat's not on you.
Yeah.
When you're in that situation. But at the same time, Buddy was always pushing me to the front.
Oh, was he?
I played solos constantly, and he would get me to sing songs, and yeah, he was always pushing me out there. So
God, man, what a
yeah,
blessing. For
I know,
sure.
I know.
So going from doing all that stuff, you have solo albums that you've done. I've seen.
Mhm.
Are you still supporting those, or are you just straight doing Foghat now and touring with
Pretty
them?
much now I'm focused on Foghat. I mean, there's no restriction within the band. I mean,
Yeah,
I can play whatever I want, but
yeah,
I'm focused on this because I don't really have time to do anything else.
yeah.
We're either on the road, or we're in the studio, or we're working on new material, or I'm working on the old stuff, and it's just a full-time job. So,
What an honor, huh? To be
dude, I'm telling you,
the singer.
I'm the most grateful guitar player you've ever talked to in your life. I promise you.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It's all been a blessing.
So how did that all go down? Like, how did you get that gig?
I got Roger and I met up back in 2016, and a mutual friend of ours put us together. They were looking for an understudy for Charlie, who was their vocalist at the time, and so he suggested me as somebody that might be a good fit. So I went down to Florida to their studio and hung out with Roger and Craig McGregor and Brian Bassett, and we played some songs together and just kind of vibed out and hung out with each other and hit it off. I hit it off with all of them. Brian and I immediately started, playing guitar and hanging out and talking together. And Craig was just a beautiful guy. I was so grateful that I got to meet him and get to know him some. And then, Roger and I just hit it off, immediately, and and it was just everything was just magic, and it just worked for us. So
do you remember like the first gig that you did, and what was that like? Were people kind of tripping out that it wasn't the other singer at first, and where you had some shoes to fill there for sure?
Well, the first gig that I did with them was actually filling in for Charlie. They had this last minute gig that came along, and Charlie couldn't do it for some reason. So they asked me if I would come and fill in, and I said sure. And of course, cocky me, I mean, how hard could it be?
Uh-huh.
Well, we get in a hotel room to acoustically kind of rehearse the set, and man, there's all these parts and these cues, and you got to be here at this spot, and this happens this way, and it, it's just all blowing my mind because it was nothing like what I had experienced in the rest of my career. With
Yeah.
Buddy, he wouldn't even tell you what key he was in. You
Really?
figure it out. You'll get there, catch it, and it's coming by. You better grab it. And that's the way I learned how to play was you're supposed to know every blues song that was ever written because Buddy may play anything.
Right.
Now I'm getting off the topic, but I got to tell you this one story.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
kind of funny.
This is awesome.
Buddy had this song called "You Can Make It If You Try." I'd never heard it before, and this is before the internet and before YouTube and all that stuff. So you couldn't really I couldn't type it in and find it. So over time, he kept playing this song, and we eventually an arrangement sort of came about. We started playing parts, and this song sort of evolved into this arranged piece of music. And so Buddy and I are hanging out one day, and we're talking. He said something, and I said about the band, and I said, yeah, I said, it's like that song, You Can Make It If You Try. We've kind of we learned that kind of on the fly. He goes, well, but you don't play it right. And I go, really? And he goes, no, that ain't how it goes. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell us already? He goes, no, it's fine. It's fine the way you guys are playing it, but that's not how the song goes. So then years later, I hear the song, and he's right. We weren't playing it anything like it was intended to be played, but we had another song. It was cool that way. But that's how I learned with Buddy, and he would just So when I got the first Foghat gig, I'm in this hotel room, and they're running me down the set, and I'm trying to keep track of all these songs and where these parts go and what happens here and what happens there. So we go to the show, and it was us and 38 Special. It was in Colorado, and there was probably 5,000 people.
Yeah,
there.
that's a big show, I bet. Yeah.
And I'm scared to death.
I bet.
And the rule in Foghat is there's no drinking before the show. So I'm no one needs a drink more than I do. But there's no drinking before the show. So I'm on stage, stone cold sober, scared out of my mind. My mouth is cotton, and I'm going through these songs. I'm trying to remember my parts. And we get to the last song, which is Slow Ride.
Sure.
Don't fuck up Slow Ride.
Right.
Not in Foghat.
No.
So what does Scott do? He blows the intro so badly that we couldn't. Sometimes as a musician, and I'm sure you know this too. You can if you get kind of in a squirrely spot, you can kind of work your way out of it.
Yeah.
And correct it. Not this. I was so bad that we had to stop.
Oh no!
And start the song over. Rodney, our bass player, he just fell flat on the stage. Just fell out flat.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, well, this is great. So we get the song, we get through the song, we're done, and I'm mortified. I'm thinking these guys are never going to want to speak to me again. And fortunately, our manager was there, Linda, and she was kind of building me up. Oh, it's okay, and Roger was hugging me. He's like, man, it's all right, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And then our front of house guy comes up to Linda, and he goes, I was talking to some people out in the audience, and I'm thinking, oh man, here it comes. And he goes, they were talking about what a great show it was. And then one of the guys said, hey, when did Dave lose all his hair? They didn't even know it was me. And so to circle back to your point, sometimes I never really got a lot of pushback from people when I took over, and that I'm aware of. I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they don't even realize that it's not the original guys. So that's kind of strange to me.
I got to back up for a second. So these guys called you up, and you learned basically like what the songs were in the hotel room prior to the gig.
Yeah.
You didn't go rehearse with them at all or nothing?
No, not at that point. I mean, I had been down and rehearsed with them like a year before that.
Yeah.
And then Charlie was the singer. There wasn't really any reason for me to be there.
Yeah.
I was still doing my own stuff, so I wasn't really focusing on the Foghat music. Yeah. And so when they called me up, I had like 2 days notice, and I was like, yeah, okay. And
got the set.
It was tough. But then so we get to the point where we did. They were getting ready to do the new record, which is Sonic Mojo, which is coming out in
Yeah.
November. But they were. I was down in Florida to help write songs for the record. That was the reason I was there. And one day I come back from a walk and Roger goes, I need to talk to you about something. I go, okay. He goes, Charlie just retired. I was, really? Yeah. He said, do you want to be the singer in the band? I was, yes. He goes, do you need to call your wife? I said, no. I said, I'm not calling anybody. I want to be in this band. So it happened that quick. So we went from working on new material and with the intention of putting a record out to me now having to learn the set for real. Like now I'm not filling in. I've got to be the guy. So the first rehearsal was absolutely horrible. I couldn't straight, and then you start questioning yourself, you're like, I've been doing this for 30 years, but all of a sudden I'm like, can I even play guitar? Do I even know how to sing? Well, maybe I'm in the wrong business, maybe I should sell shoes or something. And so they were patient with me and they let me I barricaded myself in my bedroom down there in Florida at the rehearsal studio. And just, I didn't do anything but listen to Foghat 24/7, went to sleep listening to it, woke up listening to it, sat in my room, practiced my guitar parts, got it all down. And it's taken me, I've been in the band almost 2 years now and I'm starting to feel comfortable.
Dude, your voice sounds amazing.
It only took me 2 years.
Yeah. It's a process for sure. I mean, your voice, man, sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. It was tough for me because Dave, I listened to a lot of Dave's stuff because I wanted to kind of pay attention to his phrasing. I'm not trying to copy Dave. Yeah. And I'm not, I don't want to be a mimic because this isn't a tribute band. It's a real band. Yeah. But I wanted to, when I'm doing Slow Rider, I just want to make love to you. There's some phrasing things that he did that I think are key to the presentation of the song. And you don't want to get too far away from that. So I really paid attention to his stuff. His range is different from mine. It's full voice, but it's a higher range. Yeah. So sometimes I'm really stretching at the top of where I'm comfortable trying to hit some of those notes. Yeah. But I had a good vocal coach that a friend of mine, she's a vocal coach, and I went to her for a sit down and give me some ideas. So she showed me some warm up exercises and stuff to help me kind of do it, and she confirmed that it was high. She said, "These are some high parts that you're having to sing." I was like, "I know." Yeah. So, but and the guys are all, it's the best band situation I've ever been in because everybody in the band is supportive and they're all about the end result, which is the music. Let's nobody's got an ego. Nobody's trying to make their part more important than your part. And it's everybody's, it's all about the music.
The rule of no drinking before the show is, I've heard of bands having to do that, because some people get too hammered. I think it's an absurd rule,
by the way. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was dubious about it at first. I was like, I don't know about it. Because, when I was with Buddy, that's, he takes a shot of cognac before he plays. Yeah. I learned to do that. Yeah. But there's something about, the focus. And this stuff's there's such precision stuff happening that you can't really afford to be at half step. You got to be on the top of your game. Yeah. And so that I was proud that they kind of instituted that rule, and I believe in it now. I think it's especially for this, it's important that you're clear headed and that you know exactly what you're doing.
When you're backstage, are you warming up your vocals, or do you go through like a little thing beforehand? What do you do to get warmed up?
I warm up. Yeah. I warm up. I start warming up. We get to the gig about an hour before we play. Yeah. But about 45 minutes before I leave the hotel, I'm already starting to kind of warm up. It's a muscle. Your vocal cords are a muscle, and you gotta keep them limber and ready. And I do all kinds of little weird things. Like I'm sucking on cough drops, and I got this stuff that my wife got me that I squirt in the back of my throat. Yeah. and I do all these like breathing exercises that Janet taught me, and just kind of getting ready, and then and getting psyched up too, because that's the other thing. I know I drive the guys crazy, but for about the last 15 minutes before we go on stage, I'm pacing. I'm starting to, like it's almost like a boxer working up a sweat before he gets in the ring.
Got to get that energy up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the way this show works, once we start, man, it's like being on the front of a freight train. It's going. And I've had to carve out a couple, because I'm used to talking to the audience and interacting with them and stuff, and so I had to carve out a couple of spots where they actually, at first, I don't think they knew what I was doing, but they're like, well, Scott likes to talk a lot. I'm like, no, it's not that. It's I'm drawing the audience, and I want them in on this. I don't want us just playing at them. I want them to be part of it. So
that's such an art itself, man. In being able,
it is, but I learned that from Buddy.
Did you?
Buddy's got that 1,000,000-watt smile, and I mean, he's he's got that thing where he'll be on stage and he'll tell the audience to shut the fuck up. I'm trying to tell you a story, and they'll
Really?
lose it. They'll just go crazy, and only Buddy can get away with stuff like that, because then he'll flash that smile and it's like, it's everything's okay. But yeah, that having that interaction with the audience, to me, was just an integral part of being an entertainer. They're coming for a show. If they want to listen to the record, they can do that at home.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think those songs are so timeless? That they've written years ago.
Well, the short answer is because they're good.
Right.
It's good music.
Yeah.
And Roger and I have talked about this before, because when we start putting the set together, and you've only got like 90 minutes or whatever most of the time to play, and they've got this is Sonic Mojo's the 17th album. So
I was checking that out.
There's a lot of material.
Oh my God.
And they'll start, we'll start talking about some deep cuts. We should play this song. This is a cool song.
Yeah.
We'll have to take out this song. Oh, but I like that song. Well, we can't play them both, because something's got to go. We actually got into an argument one day. We were going to have to cut the set down to play this one show. I can't remember what the situation was, but we only had like 45 minutes. Now, Slow Ride's like 9 minutes. I Just Want to Make Love to You is like 9 minutes. So there's half your show, right?
No kidding, huh? That's 20.
Now what songs are we going to play? So we start talking, and they're like, well, we can't take out this one, because this one's, we like this one. Okay, well, but we can't take out this one. So we're wrestling with this stuff, and so I just, as a smart ass like I am, I said, well, I guess we could take out Fool for the City. And everybody just stopped and stared at me. And I'm like, look, I'm just telling you, you want 45 minutes, you got to take something out. And all this stuff ain't going to live. So we ended up figuring out how to do it, and pulled it off. We didn't have to drop any of the important stuff, but I told Roger, said, this is your fault. You just got too many good songs. I don't know what you want from me.
Do you guys do a new set every show, or you guys have a set you guys just keep doing?
Pretty much the way that they've been working, and I'm still learning the process, but it looks like we put together a set at the first of the year, and then that kind of basically stays the set for the year, with some changes here and there. Occasionally we'll add another song in. Usually if that happens, I'll get a call from Roger, hey, can you listen to such and such? Which means learn it. Learn it and be ready to play it. And so then you go into study mode, and you start hammering that song. But I mean, it's such a fun situation. I mean, I'm just grateful for it. I keep saying that, but it's just true. I mean, at this point in my career, to have the opportunity to play with these guys and play this music and honor the music of this band's catalog, and write new songs and play new songs. And we got songs on the record that Kim Simmons wrote for us. The great guitar player from Savoy Brown, and Roger's longtime friend. Nice. And to get to play some stuff that somebody like that wrote is just a kick, man. It's all fun.
Have you heard of a Foghat tribute band?
No, I'm sure there are. There should be.
I wanted to ask you about that. Being a songwriter and original act and everything. How do you feel about tribute bands?
I think they serve a purpose.
Yeah.
I think a band that that has a catalog like Foghat or like the Stones or whoever,
Yeah.
I think that the songs stand up. When
Yeah.
you play a song like Slow Ride, it's a great song.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to. I think the Foo Fighters covered it not too long ago.
Did
We
they
saw
really?
that turned
That's
up on
cool.
yeah, it turned up on YouTube, and Brian, the other guitar player, he wrote the riff to play that funky music. Okay, so and he's so humble that if you don't know him, he won't. He doesn't just like go around saying that.
Uh-huh.
But I told him I'm going to get him some business cards that just say Brian Bassett. I wrote the riff to play that funky music, white boy.
No way.
Because
That's
that
cool.
should be your calling card.
Yeah.
But we were watching YouTube not too long ago, and there was a video clip of Prince playing it. And I
Uh-huh.
said, how cool is that Prince is playing your guitar part? I mean, that's
Totally.
a kick. So, for somebody to think enough of your music to put together a presentation and play that music, I think that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, they're actually having concerts now where they have just all tribute bands,
Right.
and, I kind of have mixed feelings on it a little bit, but I mean, I guess what an honor for one thing, if your band is, getting, recognized and there's a tribute band to your band,
Especially if if they're good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You don't want a shitty tribute band would be like, oh no,
Yeah.
stop doing that to our music.
So tell me about your your guys' new record coming out and stuff.
Oh man, I'm so excited. It's we put it together. It's called Sonic Mojo, and we did it down in Florida at the studio. And it's just the four of us, and it's a celebration. To me, it's a celebration of the existence of Foghat and the fact that Foghat over the years has drawn from every form of American music. It's a celebration of American music. They've done blues songs, rock songs, R&B songs, jazzy type things, and all that comes from America. And it's it's Chess Records, it's Sun Records, it's specialty records out of New Orleans. I mean, it's those were the sources that they used. I mean, I was thinking about that earlier today. I mean, Lonesome Dave and Rod, the songs that they wrote, wouldn't exist if it wasn't for guys like Willie Dixon, and Muddy Waters and Chuck Berry, So what we're doing with this record is we're continuing that thread,
And are you guys going to be touring in support of this?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually going to, we've got a couple of shows planned where we're probably going to play all of the record, and then of course, when we're doing our regular touring, you got to play Slow Ride. You got to play I Just Want to Make Love to You. You got to play Fool for the City. Yeah. So, we'll add some of the new songs in with that. And I think they stand up. I think, when you listen to the record, everybody, Roger's excited about it, which for me, when you're talking about Foghat, Roger's the he's the final word on Foghat.
Right.
So he told me that one day we were talking about doing some song and I said, well, do you think that's a Foghat song? Because he goes, of course it's a fucking Foghat song. I go, okay, all right, yeah, it's a Foghat song. So, I mean, that's he's excited about it. I'm excited about it. I think Brian and Rodney are both excited. I know our manager, Linda's excited about it.
Yeah.
So, and I just can't wait for people to hear it.
Have you guys played it live for anyone yet?
We've done a couple of the songs. A couple of the songs are in the set now. We're doing She's a Little Bit of Everything and a song called Driving On, which is our first single.
Yep.
So they've already been out there and they're going over great. Everybody seems to like those.
Yeah.
And other than that, I know Linda's probably played it for some people. I haven't played it for anybody except my wife, and she dug it. So that's my barometer. Always been my barometer. If she likes it, then all right, I'm
good
okay.
To go.
if she wrinkles her nose at it, then I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe this does suck. I don't know. I gotta listen to it again.
So you've done it. You've done that in the past, I'm sure, with your songs that you've played them for an audience for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And so what's that like for you? Like playing a song for the first time and the audience like really liking it. I mean, is that the best or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, presenting your kid for the first time. You know,
Yeah.
you hope everybody thinks
Right.
that your kid's pretty and
Yeah.
smart, but you know, the
Yeah.
jury's still out until they actually say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and when it's a song, man, I mean, art is such a uh, hard thing to quantify. You know, what somebody likes and appreciates could be the opposite of what somebody else likes and appreciates. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about the reception. I told somebody not too long ago, I think, you know, art isn't really art until it's received. You know,
Yeah.
when you know, if you or I write a song and we don't play it for anybody, nobody hears it, it's not really art. It's
Yeah.
only art when you play it for me or I play it for you, and you receive that, and then it becomes art. You know.
This new single that you guys have, the Driving On
Mm-hmm.
single, I get a feeling of, after listening to it, I was like, okay, this sounds kind of, it's definitely original, but it has tinges of like, Texas blues, Louisiana blues, kind of rock. Kind of. What would
You
you
nailed
describe?
it.
Did I?
You
Okay.
nailed it, man. Absolutely.
I mean, it
We
gives
were
you that.
sitting there. The way we do, usually the way we work, Roger and I'll start it off. We'll be sitting there. He'll be behind the
Mhm.
drum kit, and I'll have my guitar. And you know, whatever song we're gonna approach, we start trying to figure out the way in on it.
Mhm.
That song in particular, Kim had sent us a demo of just him singing it and playing guitar, and I think it might have been a click track or a drum machine.
Mhm.
So it was a real bare bones demo.
Love it.
And Roger and I were sitting there talking, and I said, you know, man, I said, I'm thinking Slim Harpo and maybe a little bit of John Lee Hooker.
Uh
And he
huh.
goes, boom, I got you. And he started playing the side stick on the snare, that clicking thing, you know,
Uh huh.
and that sort of set the tone for you know, and you know, the whole record was made with Roger having a damaged arm. You know, he had like this shoulder injury, and he wanted to do the record before he had his surgery. So he's in just ridiculous pain, never complained, and never didn't record, never said, hey, I'm hurting too bad to do this today. We would go until the pain got too bad, and then he would stop.
Yeah.
But that was usually after, doing 4 or 5 hours of playing. And this song in particular, when you listen to it, the first verse, he does one big drum fill. The second verse, he does two big drum fills. The end of the song, he does four, and they're huge. And it's almost like he's telling his sore arm, fuck you, I'm finished. We're doing this song, and I'm going to do four rolls at the end just to show you that you're not gonna win over on me.
Yeah.
So he it's a drum song, man, and it's when you're in Foghat, those drums are everything. That's what we all key off of, and everything.
What was it like? I saw a video of you guys playing on these cruises, man. And
Yeah.
what's that like?
Man, that's a blast.
Is it?
That's a blast. Yeah, my wife, I insist on her coming on all those because she loves the water and she loves cruises too, and it's cool because it's a community. Like
Yeah.
the fans that are on those things, they're not, they're glad to be there. They respect the music. They love the bands, and they're real respectful and nice. They'll say hello to you, but they don't like force themselves on you or whatever. And
Yeah.
everybody's, it's a real congenial kind of situation. The bands are all intermingling. You're seeing guys from different groups all the time, and you're just, you're chill on a boat and you play a couple of shows and
So
hang out.
So they put you guys up and
Yeah.
and everything, and is it like a
Yeah.
4-day kind of a thing, or?
Yeah, it can be. I think the longest one we went on was, I think it was 5 days, maybe, or 7 days. But we were out and we did, like, I think on that one we did 3 shows. You'd play one show and then a couple of days later you'd play another one, and a couple of days later you'd play another one.
Can you feel the boat when your guys are playing, like moving around?
Sometimes,
Really?
yeah. Sometimes there was a couple of
Rock and
times when
rolling?
you're on stage and the stage is kind of going from one side to the other. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man. So like those are kind of billed as like classic rock cruises or something.
Yeah, I think that most
Yeah.
of the ones we've been on have been something like that. Yeah, we did one. My wife's favorite one was a biker rally, and we didn't know what that was going to be like on the ocean. We're like, it's going to be motorcycles on the boat, and we didn't know what it was going to be, but it ended up being just the best time. Everybody was just so cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was fun.
So what's next for Foghat? You guys are going to do this tour. Are you guys doing any California shows?
Yeah, we'll be in California. I know we've got a record release party that we're going to be playing at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano in November, I think.
Yeah, I got it right here. It looks like it's November 7th.
Yeah. So we got that coming up, and we get to California quite a bit. I love going out there. I love heading west. I'm a Tennessee boy, grew up in Nashville, but I like going to the West Coast and seeing the scenery and soaking up the sun.
So what's the craziest that just a couple more questions, if you don't mind. I always like to ask this of musicians that have played in front of, like, you've been playing for 30 years or more, and I'm sure there's crazy things that you've seen happen while you're playing and stuff like that over the years. Is there anything that you can share with us that comes to mind?
You crazy? I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm not gonna tell you that stuff. No, I mean, you can imagine, man. It's and you've seen it too. Some people, they're having a good time and they make poor choices. And we're the beneficiaries, or we're either the beneficiaries of it or the victims of it, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's what you hope to see as a performer, as an entertainer, is people having a good time and glad to be there and enjoying what you're doing, and that's the best part for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you one, man. I was playing at a show years ago, and you know how you see those fights in like an old Western, those spaghetti Westerns?
Oh, yeah.
Shit you not, man. I got to witness a real one of those things. It was unbelievable. Like, a couple hundred people fighting in a bar.
Oh my gosh.
It was unbelievable, man. And chairs flying and bottles flying and everything. And my band was no longer allowed to play at that. So it was somehow our fault.
The rule in blues bands was, if a fight breaks out, don't stop playing. so we knew if there was, if you saw a knife or a gun, just keep playing, keep your eye on that, but keep playing, and don't lose the soundtrack. So
that's funny, man. So what is the latest music that you've been listening to? Like, is there anything, like, I know you love the blues and rock and stuff. Is there any modern stuff that out there that you are really appreciating, or?
I listen to a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
My daughter tries to keep me hip on the pop stuff.
For sure, yeah.
And my wife and my daughter both like a lot of the new country music. I'm a country music fan, but my country music is like George Jones and Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not too up on the newer things, but they'll play me songs and I'll go, I like that song, or that's a good one,
Yeah.
And you everybody's got their stuff that they're into,
sure.
and I don't think that it's a bad thing if you listen to old stuff, or if I don't think that makes you closed-minded. It just, that's what you're into. So
absolutely.
But I listen to a little bit of everything. I was this morning before I talked to you, I think I've listened to Hank Williams and then Prince. I listened to Dirty Mind all the way through, which is a great fucking record,
right?
Oh
my God!
But all Prince records are great records, so that's
I wasn't a Prince fan, and until I went and saw him play. You
got to see him live.
Yeah, my girlfriend was totally in. All right, I'll go see him. And then after I saw him play, and then his guitar playing, I was like, oh my God, this guy is talented. Yeah. Then I became a fan. I was like, okay, I get this now. Okay.
See, I've been a hardcore Prince fan since the record 1999. That was the first Prince record that I heard.
Yeah. And
so then I had to go back and get there was 4 records before that. I got those, and then I followed him. I saw him play live 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
I met him a couple of times, and actually the coolest thing, I got to see him. We got to the show early, and I got to watch a sound check. And to watch Prince do a sound check, he played every single instrument. He individually checked each instrument himself.
No way.
And when he sat down at the drum kit, he played like a drummer.
Yeah.
And if you understand what I'm talking about, I've seen guitar players play drums and they sound like a guitar player playing the drums.
Yeah.
He sounded like a drummer. He played the bass and he sounded like the bass player.
Yeah.
Keyboards, guitar, everything. He checked it all himself.
Yeah.
And I was just like floored. It's just when you see that kind of musicianship up close, it's awe inspiring.
Badass.
You know,
Total badass.
He was my favorite top 3 entertainers of all time is Elvis, Buddy Guy, and Prince. I saw all 3 of them live a million times, and I don't think anybody could beat those 3 guys.
That's incredible, man. Incredible. Well, Scott, thanks, man, for being on my podcast. What a pleasure. What an honor. And I wish you the best with Foghat. I'm going to come see you at the Coach House
Awesome, man.
November 7th. Going to work some tickets out that way. And then you guys are also playing, it looks like, at the Belly Up Tavern in Solana Beach.
We play Solana Beach in February. Yeah.
So cool, man. I think I'll try to get to that Coach House one for sure.
Absolutely, man. Hey, don't worry about tickets. I know a guy.
Exactly, man.
We'll get you in.
Yeah, bro. I really appreciate it, man. It would be such an honor to see you guys for sure.
Oh, man. Look forward to seeing you guys.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for being on my podcast, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
It's a Guy Jeans podcast.